This is the second part of a two-part series that covers the top 10 direct sales onboarding mistakes. In part 1, we heard about the 5 major process problems that direct sales companies encounter. And in this part, we're going to learn about the belief killers that handicap new sales reps in the onboarding process. So again, here's ConveYour CEO, Stephen Ryan, talking to Brian Chapman, ConveYour's Director of Business Development.
Thanks for joining us. We're back talking about the mistakes that direct sales organizations make in their onboarding of recruits. We talked about 5 mistakes last time. We're going to talk about 5 more. Stephen, what are we covering today?
Yeah, so in this video, we're going to talk about how to drastically boost the belief that your reps have in the opportunity you're providing. And so the reason why this is so important, just so important, is because if you recall, maybe this is a duh, your reps are 1099s, right? So this is an opportunity, not a full-time or part-time position, usually. And by law, they kind of have, the decision to nope out at any time that they want. And with that premise, okay, I still see a lot of direct sales companies that are really heavy on process and how-to in their training and very anemic when it comes to belief building. They're just not spending enough time talking about how to get the rep, help the rep feel strongly that they can succeed in this position, that they're with the right company, that this company is going to help them out, all sorts of things. So the opportunity here really, there's a lot of opportunities, but you can boost belief with your reps without spending more time on training. You can actually spend less time. You can have more people help create content rather than waiting for the best people on your best salespeople to help you with content creation. You'll be able to squash your reps' fears around price or their embarrassment to bring up price without changing your product or the prices or even really your product promotion, like how you talk about your product's value, in terms of features it has or anything like that. And you'll be able to address a rep's unspoken objections around the process of becoming a rep, okay? So you'll be able to cut it off the pass, make sure they're comfortable about the journey that they've gone on without bringing up objections and adding too much complexity to the onboarding experience that's actually going to cause them to go, this is too much, I gotta leave.
Are we looking at like a 5 to 10% increase in the number of people selling on these platforms if they nail this?
Yeah. So we've experienced this. People making or sales trainers and companies making small shifts in how they produce their training and how they position their training and position their products, and getting dramatic increases in the number of reps that stay through the sales, through the launch process, right? Because there's such a huge opportunity between I was recruited to I went out for the first summer, or I went out for the season, or I made my first sale. There's a huge chasm there, and that's what we're trying to, narrow.
Yeah, no, I think this is a big opportunity. Well, we're excited to share a few of these challenges. I'd like to start with the feel of the training. How can we use the feel and the way that content's produced to actually drive buy-in and belief?
Yeah, so a lot of training companies, a lot of companies that are doing training, they get budget, they get a videographer, they get the best salespeople. They get great talent to help them create training. What are the people that do the training are going to do what they do best, because that's their value proposition, right? So videographer is going to make the best videos he possibly can. He's going to add the greatest audio he possibly can. And the same thing with good trainers. They're going to make really polished training, okay? The challenge there, though, is that it usually has a long turnaround time. So the time it takes for you to build that training, it could be a quarter, it could be 6 months, and you spent so much time and money invested in that you don't often want to change it and improve it for the current times, okay? If you find small improvements that you could make to your training, because it's so produced and you want to keep that quality, you don't add those things that would be really important to tell the rep right early on. And so, you end up with the stuff you don't want to change. And if you think about our consumption patterns, as consumers, we tend to gravitate not towards the polished, perfect videos on the news. We tend to want to see what people's going on in the ground, right? We want to see the Twitch video, or we want to see the quick tweet from somebody that is there, because it creates relevancy. I'll bring out, Gary V, right? So Gary Vaynerchuk has done these authentic kind of selfie videos where he just talks about what's going on, has an idea, throws it out there, and people gravitate towards that, and they have almost more impact and more viewership than the videos that are, super highly produced, right?
You're saying that if we're talking a phone recorded video could be more powerful than
100%.
Even a large corporation where folks have a high expectation of.
Okay, check this out. So here in San Antonio, there's a large employee credit union. They went from producing like one training course every 6 months or something, to becoming the go-to people for anything that's new and relevant, any change management thing that they have to do. So what did they do? Well, they pull out their phone, they do a selfie video, they drop it into a lesson in ConveYour, they put it into a course, and they launch it and get it out there. And people love it because it's what the business needs right then. Okay. And so imagine during things like COVID, if you're stuck with this really heavily produced training, now you're going back to the drawing board to do training based off of all of these virtual shifts and everything, and you're not nimble. Okay. And the reps know it. Like, the reps know.
You can feel that. From this, you can feel that from the screen.
It's a belief killer. It's a belief killer, because they go, I don't know, but they say because they're looking at training that maybe is a little outdated, and it's really polished and professional, but then they're going, well, what about now? Because what's going on now in the world? So it has to be at a level where you can change this quickly and still produce. And it's just more relatable, right? You feel more connected to people, where you can say, hey, I know that person, he's with the company, right? And that comes into our next point, which is presenters aren't like me. Like, the rep feels like the presenter's not like them.
Well, it seems like sellers, the sellers these days are very diverse. We're talking about people in different life stages, single moms, people of all different ethnicities and backgrounds, urban and rural. There's a lot of these different sub segments. How do you deal with that in training?
Yeah, it's changed so much. I'll just talk about that a little bit more. With virtual, that it exploded, because now you don't have as much of, hey, the culture of a physical location, right? And so before, I hate to say it, but before, the culture of a physical location would kind of make people kind of self-select themselves into an opportunity. Now, and it's the coolest thing, now you have all sorts of backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, socioeconomic and whatever, are looking for opportunities where they can make, side cash, or it can be a full-time thing from their home. And so it's so important that the company shows a high fidelity in this area in terms of different relatable avatars of success, right? So instead of just the single avatar of like the top sales rep who's doing the job, you have various versions. And this is where you could get into a little bit of an adaptive learning, type of model that we support, actually. So maybe you show a profile for, say, a retired person, that shows them how their success would look like. And then you have an avatar that is an example of someone who's maybe younger and out of college that wants to work 40, 50 hours a week and really hustle, right? You show them a different avatar. The key is that you're showing them an avatar, you're showing what success looks like, and making them go like, I could walk a mile in that person's shoes. I can be this person. If you're showing them, if you're showing them a version of that they cannot picture themselves being, they're not, this is not going to land. They're not going to believe that they can do it.
Well, and it relates a lot to this, how you create content, because if you're all we're talking about selfie videos, you can actually bring a lot of people to the content creation party.
Yeah, a really good point. This is what I was talking about with the opportunity here. Instead of the opportunity of this content bottleneck where you're waiting for your best people and you're scripting it out and you're trying to get the best version, it's being okay with mistakes, being okay with showing reality, right? Showing reality is a huge thing. People want to see reality. The reps are looking for that. They're looking for like, what's not real here, okay? And if you can just show say a retired person like, hey, I don't want a full-time thing. I don't want this to ever be a full-time thing. I just wanted to make sure that I had a way to be able to go and see my, my family down in Arizona and have the money to do that, stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so important that that we show all of the different versions of success. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so this really ties into the next one. These different diverse people with diverse backgrounds, they bring the richness and new approaches. But oftentimes, what we hear is that these reps don't always have a really deep understanding of the customer segments and the customers that are making these buying decisions. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about that issue.
Yeah. So, as you know, I started in Cutco. Okay. And I had a context when starting Cutco that was really helpful. I was a butcher in high school. And so I already knew the value of a good knife. I already knew I loved to cook. My mom loved to cook. And so it was really easy for me to see the value of this thing I was selling. And the price, while they were, a premium product, made sense to me. Okay. And this is the opportunity where you need to position your product, okay, and help create insight for your sellers. By customer insight, I mean, give an example. If you're a product that is for a hobbyist product, okay, for let's say women over the age of 50, do you think it's going to be a little challenging for somebody that's 25 to understand the customer insight there? Okay, understand why somebody would be willing to spend a large portion of their hobby money on this hobby. And so it's not about talking about the details of your product and why it's better than the other products on the market. It's all going to go right by them if you don't take the time to build belief around, yes, people actually spend a bunch of money on this topic. You know what I just learned the other day? That the mermaiding industry, the niche mermaiding, is a $500 million niche. Do you think that my age, if you say I thought it was 50 million, or something like this. So, creating that insight, understanding there's huge demand for this. Okay, people spend money on this all day long. Makeup, for an example, I don't really know how big of a going concern it is. So this is what I'm talking about. And this doesn't require you changing your product at all. It doesn't require you doing more videos that talk about how cool your product is. It's really just, hey, did you know, guys, that, and sometimes it's just around people spend a lot of money. Like when you're out of college and you're broke, I remember a talk from somebody at a conference where they just went through and just talked about the cost of things, like as a homeowner. Hey, you know how much windows cost? Do you know how much a couch costs? Do you know how much these things cost? And once you explain that, then you're like, whoa, I'm broke. I don't have any money as a rep. But these people, the average person I'm showing this to, this isn't a big spend. This is a monthly fee over a few, that's really nominal compared to their grocery budget. And you have to provide that proprioception, so to speak, to help them understand that they're not asking for much when they present this opportunity.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that certainly increases my confidence as a seller. When I know that there's budget, when I know that I know how this fits in this person's life and how it's going to connect with that person. And I think that's super powerful. One of the things I think about with we're asking these reps, these recruits, oftentimes to do some new actions, new challenges that they may not be comfortable with, whether it's pitches and leaving a voicemail. Talk about kind of how I guess, stating it a different way, how do these trainings, how do we get more opportunity for folks to practice these key actions?
Yeah, it's so important because we often will tell, teach, and then say, go do it. Right? A huge chasm between those two. Um, so it's like never just use basketball, for example. It'd be the coach putting everybody on the bench, okay, showing them how to shoot how to play the game, and then throwing them into a game. It's like crazy. There's not even a skirmish. There's not even a a 3-on-3 going on. And so could you imagine what's going through the rep's mind? Like, okay, I think I know what this looks like. I've watched people do it, but boy, it's scary to go out, knock on a door or, go into somebody's home and present, and thinking the whole time, like, this is not going to come out the way, the way I've been taught how to do it, right? And then am I going to get ridiculed, rejected? It's just really like a scary feeling. And so the our brains can't tell the difference between the practice and the actual thing. So they can a little bit, but it really does help, reduce that chasm if you can just get them to try a few times in a safe environment. And so practicing is so important, giving them a way for them to maybe do a video coach. Like we have this feature here in ConveYour where they can upload a video. You ask them to upload a version of themselves asking for referrals. They upload a video of their pitch of asking for referrals, and then you can later on come back and provide them, score them and provide them, feedback. And just getting a few at-bats, right, of that, and getting a few, like, you did this great. You're ready to go in this area, is gonna definitely increase their belief, especially at that really difficult moment where they have to make the decision of, are you really going to do this or not? Right? We've watched all the videos about our product and, all these other things, but now it's time to make the decision whether you're actually going to do this. And it would be so sad to lose people at that point when they've already taken 10 hours to learn about other things in your business. So that's what I mean by getting them practice, getting them skilled,
and really making it easy for their managers or leaders, maybe somebody who recruited them, to be able to give them feedback without taking a lot of time out of their day as well. I think that's one of the big challenges, is how do you calibrate the amount of investment you put into these early recruits, knowing that so many are not going to end up selling. I think it's really hard sometimes for those recruiting managers to efficiently give those opportunities of practice.
Yeah, it's got to be efficient. It's got to be easy for you as the sales manager to do that, to provide that feedback. It's not efficient to book a million different Zoom calls and have synchronous time sometimes when things come up. Okay, it's much more efficient to do it where you can batch your reviews, right, and provide that feedback, when time's convenient for you.
We know, everyone who's on this, who's listened this far, we're all committed to getting people these new skills, teaching people how to do things that they haven't done before. And so we have basically, this challenge where we need to provide a lot of skills and how-tos, but we don't want to overwhelm these folks who haven't gone out there. There's stuff we've already talked about that is out of their comfort zone. How do we make that balance happen between those two challenges?
Yeah, let's talk about a spectrum. Okay, so there's two things that a rep's looking for, and there's a challenge here with regards to how you organize your content. So the first one is, a rep is actually from the beginning wanting to know if there's any scary stuff that's going to happen later, that if they knew now, they would decide not to do this, because if they're going to take the time to learn this and go down this road, they don't want to get painted into a corner. If you think about the type of, let's say, talk about millennials, they don't even want to go to a restaurant unless they know it's got 5 stars, right? We're going to look it up before we go there, because that's scary. Okay, we're going to look at reviews online. We're going to do all, you know what I mean? This whole idea of just doing it and then we'll figure it out when we go, we got the internet now. So we have this one problem, of you got to tell all of the reps, it's going to be okay. Here are the phases. Here are all the things that are going to happen during this process. We don't really have the benefit of information out, arbitrage anymore. You just have to share them with what's going to happen. But then how do you do that without overwhelming them? Because if you're going to tell them all of these things that are going to happen, then you fall into the trap of, whoa, that's too much. That's more. You created objections before they came up. And so I've seen a lot of companies take the other approach, which is, we're just going to put the blindfolds on the rep and just have them focus on the next step. So they just, don't worry about all this other stuff. You'll figure it out. We'll tell you about it later. Just do this today. Okay. And so that's really heavily optimized for the next step. But in the meantime, you're holding back information. And so they're going, oh, I'm very clear. I have belief in knowing what the next step is, but I don't know what all the steps are. So it's like mom, when I would go swimming, when I learned how to swim, she'd say, start swimming to me. And then she'd start doing that backing up thing on me, and it drove me nuts because I wanted to get to her and she would back up and eventually learn how to swim. But what I see as a mistake is that companies organize their content, and they focus on how they organize their content on how they onboard. Let me help you understand what I mean. So they think about it in terms of courses, like in terms of things that the reps have to do, okay? And then they go into each course and they either only release that first course with all the content, or they release them all, and then they give them all of the content, okay? And so, you can see both create problems. So how do you fix this? Well, the way you fix it is that there are two pieces of content, right? The first way you build belief around you're okay, it's going to be okay, you're going to get through the whole process, you're going to be fine, is you make a high level belief building, you can get through this journey, this safari to the,
It's almost a roadmap.
It's a roadmap, but it's simple and it's not detailed, and it's more focused on encouragement. It's more focused on handling objections, the biggest objections you hear before they come up. Okay. You give social proof and third-party stories. So say, hey, in week 3, you're going to learn how to build your opportunity list of people that you can reach out to. Now, some people say this is scary. It's really not. All right, we're going to show you examples of others. Here's one video, 12-second video from blank who did this on week 3 and had made a great list. Okay, but we're not going to cover all that right now. You'll learn about that later. Okay, so you see what I'm saying? It's a belief building roadmap, and then you have the content that you're releasing just what they need to do the next step, because now they have belief in both areas. They know the journey, but they also they believe they can take the next step because I'm not giving them everything that they need to do. And the whole self-guided model, they see 8 courses, they see lots of content, and they go, I know the whole process and I don't want to commit to that, right? So it's 2 motions. It's 2 separate motions. One's belief building and encapsulation of the opportunity, and the other one is around the actual, how do you get from A to B? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it seems like you'd need some tools and supporting infrastructure to be able to orchestrate what you're talking about and provide this ability to both push content that they push them to the next step content, and provide a certain amount of intelligent sort of menus, recommendations of what they can go find on their own.
Right. So cue in ConveYour, right? So we have both the ability to have kind of an on-demand library for people to consume content. We have the ability to push people onto drip campaigns. So the first one you would start with would be this intro to the journey, right? Where you push out these videos. And this might be in the process where they're about to sign the contract. They haven't done the contract yet, but you're kind of explaining. And that's more of like a sale, like you're selling them on it's going to be okay. You're going to get through this. Then once they're onboarded, then you're dripping out the modules that they need. You could even lockstep them, so you're not releasing until they finish the next one, and you're nudging them, like we talked about in the previous video, with, hey, next step is this. You got to do this one thing. And so imagine think about the belief you'd have if you had somebody holding your hand in the gym, like a personal trainer, okay? When I'm just going to show up to the gym and they're going to tell me the next thing to do. Okay. And I do that. But when you first met with them, she laid out a plan that explained where we're going to go and encouraged you and said, don't worry. By the time we get to week 3, you're already going to be able to, do 4 pull-ups, 10 pull-ups just fine, because I've got a special way to show you how to do it to make it faster. And it's like, oh, great. Like, I've never been able to do more than, 10 pull-ups or something. So I think you get the idea, but it's the way you set it up is different. It's about the rep first rather than about how you structure your content.
It really is comes back to putting the rep first. I think that's well, that's a great place to leave it. Thank you so much for spending the time with us.
Yeah.
We're here for you. We would love to do a free consultation, dig into your onboarding approach, see where you could experience significant gains in your conversion rates, and reduce the time to the first sale.
Thank you for checking out this content from ConveYour. For more information on how ConveYour helps direct sales companies level up their onboarding, or to schedule a free consultation, visit us at ConveYour.com.